Everybody, it's the Ordinary Joe Show today. And we are kind of mixing it up today because I don't actually have a guest in the studio. The studio sounds official. I'm just doing a little solo flight here today because I have something I want to talk to you about. I don't know that I've ever done a book review, but I want to talk to you about this book called A Mile at a Time. And it's written by Travis and Mark Macy. And it is about their journey with Mark, his journey with Alzheimer's disease. So this is actually a really good book, and I know you're like, don't click off if you're thinking, oh god dang, I don't want to talk about dementia and Alzheimer's, that's super depressing. Click off. Nope, keep watching. Do not click that off button. Yeah, stay with me, folks. Stay with me. I think in many cases, dementia and Alzheimer's can be seen as a really Debbie Downer issue. And rightly so, because it's serious, right? It sucks. Like, my dad had dementia, and it was not a picnic. It was not a picnic at all. And so what can happen is that we avoid talking about it, and we don't want to even kind of consider that kind of stuff. And I 100% get it, because years ago when Dad was in the hospital in Brandon for something else, the doctor said, blah, 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 he has Alzheimer's. And I wasn't really mentally prepared to have that conversation in my head at that point. And the only advice that he had was watch that movie Still Alice. And that was the only advice, was watch the movie. And I was like, fuck you. Yeah, I don't want to watch that movie. And I've never watched it because I just wasn't ready to be depressed like that. This is not going to be a depressing podcast, but this book is actually a really good book, because if you are a runner or into adventure racing or into like athletics stuff, this is a hell of a good read. Because if you don't know this guy's journey, Travis and Mark Macy are big ass endurance athletes, and they do all sorts of crazy shit. They run, like, they talk about this race in here. It's a 100-mile race, and they do the eco challenges, which is adventure racing, where you're like canoeing and hiking and like all sorts, like big rafting and running and all sorts of like crazy shit for days and days and days, and in the jungle and wilderness and all this stuff. It's just bananas. And I find it ironic because I would be too chicken to participate in something like that. But I love watching this kind of stuff because it's super exciting, and you're seeing real people go on these crazy adventures and journeys, and probably learning a lot about themselves along the way. So I kind of stumbled upon the world of Mark Macy. In 1995, there was a big adventure race televised. I can't even remember where it was. But anyhow, I just stumbled upon it on TV, and I thought, holy shit, this is amazing. So I knew who he was before because I watched that series and was always really intrigued by the world of adventure racing. And so if you have Amazon Prime, definitely what I would do is check out the show, The World's Toughest Race, because the picture on this book is from The World's Toughest Race. And that is another televised season of adventure racing run by Mark Burnett, who is the guy who created Survivor. And so I stumbled upon the TV series because I love adventure racing, and I noticed that Mark was back on in the show again. And of course, he's older. And what I didn't realize is that Mark has been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And in the show, they talk about Mark's journey because, of course, it's starting to affect him. And so Mark and his son formed a team with two other people, and they did this adventure race. And then as they interviewed these guys and the contestants, Mark and Travis, the son, both talked about a little bit about their journey so far with Mark's diagnosis of Alzheimer's. So got me right in the feels, because that's when Dad was still going through on his dementia journey. He was still with us. And so it really got me, because I thought, wow, that's super cool that these guys are being so open and transparent about Mark's journey. And it really hit home with me. And that's why I wanted to talk to you guys about this book today, for a few reasons. So number one, if you are into adventure racing, biking, Ironman, triathalon, just exciting stuff like that, buy the book, because it's a good book aside from the Alzheimer's stuff, because Travis talks about kind of their adventure racing and their athletic career, their running career, a lot, and these stories are amazing. So it's a really, really good book just on that level alone. I learned a lot about the family and about what kind of events are out there. Like, these guys have competed all over the world doing all these amazing things. So it's a really exciting and interesting book from that regard. And again, watch the TV series. It's really, really good. And also, if you have a family or loved one, friend, that kind of thing, who is going on their own Alzheimer's dementia journey, what I would do is if you haven't watched the series yet, pick up this book. You can get it on Amazon, and pick up this book, but then watch the series too. And I don't know, like, I was trying to decide, like, should you watch the series first or should you watch it after? But start reading the book first, because the first half of this book talks a lot about Mark's career, his racing career, his athletic career, and then it goes into like how Travis got involved in running and like long distance stuff and adventure racing, all this stuff. So read this kind of first, and then start the series and watch it too, because it's a really, because they talk about the TV series in this book, and I think it will be really meaningful for you. And so the cool part is that when I watched the series, this book hadn't come out, of course. I was so impacted by it because, of course, Dad was going on his own journey. I threw caution to the wind one night, and I found Travis on Instagram, and I sent him a message, and I was like, hey, blah, 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 love the series. You know, you guys are awesome. I knew Mark from before, like I followed him before a little bit. My dad has his own journey going on, blah, blah, blah. And clicked send and never expected to get a response. But the cool part is that Travis messaged me back, and was super, super kind, super gracious, and we have kept in touch ever since. And one thing that I thought was really cool too was that Travis, when we messaged back and forth, he actually even offered for he and his dad to do a call with my mom and dad, which was massively classy, like super, super classy. Like, who does that, right? Who does that? Like, these guys probably have like thousands of followers and they know a million people, but they were willing to do a call with my dad. And at that point, my dad wasn't really in any kind of shape to do a call like that, because he didn't know these guys. And I think my mom was kind of overwhelmed with the whole thing anyway. So we never did do a call. But when I talked to Dad, like, we would talk on the phone all the time. This was full on COVID, so I couldn't go in there. But Dad and I talked on the phone quite a bit. I told him about Mark and Travis, and of course we didn't talk about the Alzheimer stuff, but there's a part in the show where Mark is having a tough time, and they want him to get on this donkey. I think I have a terrible memory too. He's kind of scared, and he's tired and everything, and he didn't want to do it, and he does it. And so I told Dad about that, because of course, if you know my dad, he was a big ass cowboy, like, you know, cowboy to the core, and saddle up. So I told him how Mark didn't want to get on this donkey or horse or whatever, and that he did it, and that he was proud of himself, and we had a really good visit, and he was really proud of Mark for doing that. Like, he was like, wow, good job, Mark, for getting on the horse, you know, saddling up, good job, even though he didn't want to do it. And so I passed that along to Travis and his family. So it's been kind of cool to have this little connection. And we don't chat very often, but it's still super cool. These guys are really, really good people, and it shines through not only in the TV episode or in the series, but also in the book. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about this book, because again, like, I think we shy away from talking about dementia and Alzheimer's, and I'm not sure why, but maybe more now. But one thing that I found when Dad had his diagnosis or went on his journey, I think people kind of knew that that's what was going on for a long time before it became official. But I think I got the impression to some degree that people were really uncomfortable talking to Dad, you know, and what do you say? And, you know, I kind of get that, because we clearly noticed that as Dad's mind changed, his world changed, and the conversations changed, his behavior changed, everything changed. And so a person had to be kind of creative in how you talk to him, because the best way that I can explain is that he started living in a different world, and his world was the past, right? Like, even at the home, like, I mean, you'd phone him, and one day he's he's driving his green truck to go to an auction sale, or maybe he's working and he's complaining about the foreman. And like it was really interesting. And rather than, you know, go into that life of despair that dad was kind of living in this alternate universe, one thing that really helped me was just to jump in and join him in that alternate universe. And it was really amazing the conversations that we could have, because rather than fixating on, oh, you know, my dad has dementia and he doesn't, you know, have this, you know, grasp on reality anymore. Who gives a fuck about reality, right? Fuck, lots of times reality sucks. So rather than being kind of down in the dumps about that, what I would do is we hop into his reality and his world, and you could still have some really, really good conversations with him, like really, really thoughtful and really good conversations about all sorts of stuff. And I remember, you know, like sometimes I would ask him, like, what are you proud of? You know, and that would take us on a journey that he was proud of being a truck driver. That was something that he really, really liked. And I never really knew that about him before, was how proud he was to be a truck driver. And or so what are you grateful for? And the thing that really amazed me was, here was this man who was living in a personal care home during COVID. By his last, you know, months, he had lost the ability to walk, so he couldn't walk around. He's very active in his life. He had lost a lot of stuff. He still had this great sense of gratitude, and he could still tell me that he really thought that he was a lucky person, and he had a lot to be grateful for. So that is something that I've always wanted to talk about and to share, because even though you might have a loved one who does have some sort of cognitive issue, whether it's, you know, Alzheimer's, dementia, and there's different types of all that stuff. Don't shy away from your loved ones. If you can, like, try not to. Just reframe your conversation, because if you hop into their world, it's still going to be a lot of magic. And I, you know, there's still a lot of magic and still a lot of value and love that can be had right up until the very end. And there's a few things that have really impressed me about Mark and Travis and his family, and even writing this book is a few things, and even watching the series. And I'm not going to give you everything, because I want you to read it and I want you to check it out. But one thing that I've been massively impressed was when Mark was diagnosed, he actually, like, he knows he has Alzheimer's. I don't know if Dad ever really, I think he did, but we didn't talk about it with him a hell of a lot. But Mark actually went around and spoke to groups about the fact that he had Alzheimer's, and he made a conscious decision to just keep living his life and just to give her shit right up until, you know, whenever, which I think is really cool, because sometimes we can let the adversity that we face kind of fuck us, you know, kind of ruin us, and we just want to shut down. And like, they knew that Mark had Alzheimer's when they went on this race, and they knew it was going to be difficult, but they did it anyway, because in the book, Mark talks about how he was like, I think his doctor said something about, you need to get your affairs in order, and basically like, game over. And he was like, bullshit, fuck you, you know, I'm gonna keep giving her shit, and I'm not getting my affairs in order because I'm gonna keep living my life. Perfect. Isn't that wonderful? That, you know, like, I mean, we can face this adversity, but rather than letting that kind of shut his party down, he's like, fuck this, I'm just gonna give her shit anyway. And they've done all these races and all this cool stuff. He's talked to groups, he's been really open and transparent about it, and think about the people that he's helped, right, all the way through that. And the other few things that I really like about this book and this series is that they interviewed, of course, the other teammates on this team in The Amazing Race, and they talked about, like, they didn't know if they were going to finish the race or not, and they didn't know how things are going to go. They didn't know how long they'd last, because this is intense stuff that these guys have to deal with. But they all talked about what an honor it was to go on this journey with Mark and Travis, because clearly they knew that this would, you know, be probably the last big adventure race like this that Mark would do. But they all talked about what an honor it was, and to go on that journey. And that kind of like the kind of symbolic for life. Like, I mean, to be able to go on a journey with your loved one, as shitty as it might be, to go on that journey with them and you know, hold their hand and jump into their world and have the different conversations and learn the bits and pieces that you maybe didn't know before. Learn some about them, learn something about yourself, learn something about life, and go on that journey with them. Like, that is a huge honor. And if you look at it the right way, it's a little bit of a gift too. And like being with Dad, you know, even right up until his final minutes, that's a huge gift. And yeah, Alzheimer's is the pure shits. Dementia is the shits. There's no getting around it. But I think these guys are super classy because they're looking at it in a way that it's still an honor and it's still something important to go on that journey with your loved one with. And the other thing that I really respect about Mark and Travis and his family is, especially Travis, is how open he's been about even his own struggles and his own journey, because no, it's not a picnic. And he talks about how like he and his dad are super close, and he talks about in his book about you know, about therapy and about needing antidepressants and you know, how it brought on like depression and anxiety and all that stuff, which massive respect, because I don't know, like, I mean, I think, you know, with depression and anxiety and that kind of stuff, mental health issues, you know, like, Belle, let's talk, my coffee pot's always on. And I don't know, but I have a real issue with those posts, because when the rubber hits the road, is your coffee pot on? You know, or is it a good Facebook post to put on? Is that banner, the Belle Let's Talk, you know, stuff, just, you know, change up your profile picture, but that's where it stops. And it's, I think, you know, Travis being so open about his mental health issues and how this has affected him emotionally is really great, because, you know, you can't start to heal and heal from this stuff or recover or survive it if you don't acknowledge where you're at right now. And if where you're at right now is, I'm feeling like a bag of shit and I'm scared and I'm depressed because my dad's going through this really tough stuff, I think it takes a lot of balls to be able to admit that, because when you admit it, then you can face it and you can deal with it and get some help. So massive respect to Travis to be able to be that transparent too, because I don't know, like, I mean, we all got piles of shit that we're dealing with, and sometimes it does bring on panic attacks, you know, depression, anxiety, you know, just feeling like a bag of shit. And to be able to be that open makes it easier for other people to be open about it, even if they acknowledge it on their inside. And when you're open about it, then you can get through it. So if you have a spare $10, get this book. Doesn't matter if you have somebody who's affected by Alzheimer's, because this is actually a really inspiring, uplifting book. It's not, I didn't find it depressing, because I'm not big into like being, you know, purposely reading shit that's going to make me feel bad. I'm just not into that. But this isn't a depressing book. It's really inspiring, and it's really, I don't know if uplifting is the right word, but these are good people, and they really put things in a different perspective. So I would highly recommend it. But if you do, see if you can get Prime if you don't have it, and read the first part of this book to get a taste of the adventure racing life, because it's really interesting and it's really cool. And then go on the journey and watch the series as you go through it. It's a very good book. And honestly, if you are watching this, we're at the 18-minute mark. Good job for not clicking the off button. Way to go, because I actually did my hair today and put on makeup. Yeah, so I mean, stay with me. That's awesome. If you do have something going on the Alzheimer's dementia journey, then send me a message. Send me a message. I don't know why, but I think it's important to talk about this. And I always got the sense that when Dad was going on his journey, it made a lot of people feel uncomfortable as far as talking to him after, you know, things were starting to go south with his head. And that's a tough thing. It's very isolating, and it can be very isolating and very difficult, and it doesn't have to be. So send me a message if you're going on that journey, and yeah, we can chat, because there's gifts and lessons in there. The gifts, you know, talking to Dad about gratitude and stuff like that. And he had lost everything. But he still was grateful, and he was still strong, and we still had good conversations. And I don't know, there was still a lot of love and magic there. You just got to hop into their world. Just got to hop in there, and you'd be surprised the magic that you can experience when you do that. I don't know if this made a hell of a lot of sense, but I had coffee, I put my makeup on, did my hair. I am not wearing real pants, so I'm wearing my, down here it's all pajamas, and yeah. So that's where it ends. But check this book out. It's really good. And they follow them on Instagram too. They have a podcast and they do some good work. Very, very nice people. I would like to have Travis on my podcast someday. That's my goal. So, as always, pay somebody a compliment, buy somebody a coffee, jump into somebody's world. You'll never know what kind of magic you will experience if you do. Have a good one, my friends. Bye-bye.